The format.
And the hierarchy must sign off on the vote. And the chaos deity Cole must accept.
No, wait.
On the paperwork.
No, wait.
What?
Hold on, let me...
So Joe Rogan just had Miley Cyrus on the podcast.
That's who you always talk. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like in
Joe
a
Rogan?
podcast mood yesterday,
yeah.
and like I was like,
Who listens to podcasts?
I know. I was like, who does it?
Dude, they're shit. It's like reading a book, but it's
Joe
fluent.
Rogan. I thought you were talking about Seth Rogen, so I'm like, I don't think he does a podcast. I was
No,
like,
not Seth Rogen.
He's also pretty opposite end of your spectrum.
Yeah, it's not like I won't listen to somebody on the opposite end of the spectrum. It's just
I know, but for
when they're
enjoyment.
aggressive about it.
Yeah.
Because Joe Rogan.
Hey, you guys want to smoke some weed?
Yeah.
Joe Rogan's actually supports some socialist economic policies. Stuff I'd never support, and I like him a lot. I used to be really anarcho-capitalist and shit.
Yeah.
I was like Shark, but on the other end of the spectrum, and I've given that up. No more utopia, man.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, we're starting?
yeah, sure. Fuck it. Episode 3, buddy.
Yeah. Shy Guy
I'm
and
ready.
RyGuy, your hosts. And we got the return of BraceFace from last episode.
Howdy.
And now we got StoneWolf. He's going to go by Stone.
Hello.
He's our resident professional For Honor player in our Xbox group.
Haven't
Yeah,
gotten to a tournament yet.
but one day. Soon. Yeah, it's soon.
Soon.
Yeah, so what are we talking about today?
Theology.
Theology.
We're talking about one of those sensitive subjects.
Theology, religion, the large scope of a higher power, whatever
Yeah.
you believe in, some sort of belief.
If you believe in something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you believe, if you don't, but even if you don't, that's still technically believing in nothing, so you're still believing. So, little
That's right.
fuckery right there.
The spaghetti monster, my guy.
It's the
Bro, I mean, that's something everybody believes in.
meatballs. Okay.
Well, we can have StoneWolf introduce himself a little bit,
Yeah.
because Brace already did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did in episode 2, so I don't know, Stone, if you want to just talk about yourself a little
Likes
bit.
himself some Boffy.
Like yourself some Boffy, anything about you, how you kind of came into the group. I mean, it's,
How you came into the group's important. We've been doing that
yeah,
with
we've been doing
everybody.
that with everybody,
well,
so.
When I came into the group was around when me and RyGuy were met around grade school. I think it was
Third grade?
third grade we met, but I didn't officially come into the group until about 5th grade because I just randomly said I was playing Halo Reach, and then we just looked at each other. I was like, "Wait, you got an Xbox?"
You got Xbox, dog?
Dude,
Yeah.
The amount of time in school, like especially elementary to middle school, that I'll overhear like a conversation, be like, "Bro, you play Skyrim?"
Well, listen, you play some
Hello?
Skyrim?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, "What's your gamer tag?"
What's your name is?
I say officially I came into the group around 5th grade, but I was a lot more quiet at the time. That's why me and Chai Guy here didn't really know each other until around my high school year,
been a while,
because around that time, around 7th, 8th grade, I took about a 2-3 year hiatus from the Xbox group. I just didn't play at the time. After that 3 years, I got back into the group and noticed a lot of members were gone.
Yeah.
We were a lot bigger at the time.
Some new ones too, though.
a lot
A lot of
few new
members
ones.
disappeared, but then there
Brace.
were some few new ones that came in, too, in that time, so.
Yeah, we used to be way more flexible in the group. At our peak, I think we had almost like 20 people back in the 360 days.
Oh, dude, when we had our clan.
Yeah, our
Clan in Halo. Dude,
the
we had probably like
Outcast.
40, 50
Yeah.
people
Oh
up
my
in that
gosh.
shit. Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
it
that was crazy.
Yeah.
Like I said, that was the first thing I noticed when after coming back after 2-3 years,
Now
we
it's like
lost
12 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, significant difference. But hey, I mean, it starts to,
I mean, you miss a lot in 3 years after
That's true.
coming
Oh,
back.
it becomes a lot more tight-knit, though. Like, you find the real concentrated group of friends. And
The size stays the same now, and by chance, everybody who stayed together lives in the same area, so that helped a lot.
oh, yeah.
Well, I mean,
Absolutely.
you've got some
Some people,
differences. Our New York boy, Newark,
Newark.
yeah, Newark.
Newark boy.
But the size stays about the same.
Barp it.
And if somebody disappears now, normally we get somebody new added in.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
true. That's
But-
true.
Something I've been doing sometimes when we have our big Minecraft worlds, because we do that every couple of months.
Ooh.
Whenever I build like a church in town or something in Minecraft, I'll build, connected to theology a little bit. I'll build a graveyard in the back of the church, and I'll have the gamer tags of everybody who's gone, basically.
Oh.
Oh man.
Yeah, no,
There's a list
it's
of
kind of dark,
respects.
but it's
Pay them
true. Because
respect.
what's weird, when I first started doing it, it wasn't that weird because like 3 people disappeared. Because it's the same story on Xbox when you have these tight knit groups. Somebody disappears, and you just keep checking your friends list every day, and eventually it says been offline for 2 years.
Dude, that shit makes me cry.
That's when it hurts. Is when you
memes
see
about
it.
it.
Yeah,
There's
the memes
about it, yeah.
just hit, dude.
Oh, for sure.
See you tomorrow.
What hit me
That's
was
last
when the
time.
graveyard had more people in it than who's in the group.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When the graveyard started to outnumber us, because
Yeah.
this is something I do as I started doing as a joke, and now I do it more as like a memorial. Whenever we have a big
More of an honor of everyone.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah. We lost our Canadian, bro.
I know, bro.
God damn it.
Who was the one who went into the army?
Heavy
Heavy
gunner.
Gunner.
Heavy
Yeah,
Gunner.
we were talking
That's
about him.
right.
I think in
Last
episode 2.
podcast,
Yeah,
Podcast, yeah.
Talking about him. Yeah, family.
He's best friend, dude. He'll be my family for
I
life.
haven't talked to him in 2 years, probably.
Yeah.
It's been a good bit.
So you know the Kilroy thing that was written on stuff during World War II?
Yeah.
That symbol? There's a new one for modern day war, and it's called gondola, right?
Really?
Yeah, and it's this weird gopher looking thing. I don't really know what he is. He kind of looks like a Lorax, actually. I speak for the trees. Normally he'll be wearing like the outfit of whatever country he's drawn in. And it's a real thing. You see this shit drawn all over the place, but there's memes about him. And again, Heavy Gunner's new gamer pick, because I still see him get on every once in a while. I need to reach out to him and talk to him sometime. It's him wearing it's Gondola wearing Vietnam era stuff, but it says "Born to Gondola" on the helmet. I'm like, yes, he's one of the jarheads now.
He hath done it. Man.
There's a lot of people. There's some people that come in and out every now and then. 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6.
He pops in from time to time.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
If you play PC, you'll see a lot of them. Actually, he's really just moved platforms.
Yeah.
Brace, have you met 6 or talked to him?
He's
Noble
hopped
6?
he's hopped in the party a few times. But I don't know.
When you played Ark Survival for like a week. That's when you met 6.
I've
probably.
never played Ark.
You haven't?
No, never.
Then
no.
if you were in the party during.
Yeah, probably.
That was a game where he could play on PC while we played Xbox.
Oh.
So we saw 6.
So yeah, we did the
Is it like
double
so-
thing.
Like ShyGuy said, he's just from platform to platform.
Yeah,
is
he
where
just
went
moved
back.
platforms. So well, that's what we thought happened to Dark Game Master, but he's
He
doesn't like us very much anymore.
Kind of, yeah. It's fine.
kind of turncoated a bit.
A little bit.
We don't want to go too far into
he
that
didn't-
one.
We can go into it a little bit. His political opinions changed, but we're okay with that.
I would
We're
just
okay.
say,
Problem.
yeah. I mean,
It's just how he
we can
views
shoot. Hey,
us.
we
Yeah.
can shoot the shit with each other, but still be
Exactly.
buds afterwards and play some
Exactly.
games.
What-
But I don't know what happened. I don't know if he just got the wrong impression of us.
I want to say you
he
get
got
through-
derogatory, yeah.
Yeah, and he kind of just kind of threw it in the garbage. He's like, I'm kind of done.
He
He
got-
just did his own thing. I mean,
think-
maybe that's what it was.
Well, not
but-
to mention, motherfucker moved to PlayStation. Like,
Yeah, what the fuck?
Didn't even get a PC, guy. Like, come on. Fuck. But
Yeah.
Because I think he got the wrong impression, but it didn't help that he didn't decide to confront any one of us to talk about it. He
No,
just
he
kind of
just- he
just
just kinda
planted it
said
and just
some
said
shit
it, and
and
he
then
reached
gone.
out. He reached out to Badger and basically said we're all racist. But it's like,
Love
which I was very confused when I heard that.
I'm looking at Stone right now, who's clearly Mexican.
Oh yeah, I was just like, man, the brown man got racist. I'm
then-
surprised.
Not to mention, Dark
Brown
Game
man got
Master was
racist.
a black guy, and we never had any problems with him.
Yeah.
If anything, he was a real racist with me.
Wait,
we had to be honest.
Actually, 6. Why do we have a bunch of Mexicans?
Absolutely.
I didn't even think about that.
We're the
That's
dominant
kinda
force here.
funny. Yeah, apparently.
I mean,
We
y'all are
are.
good at video games.
We need to
okay?
diversify.
yeah.
We need some Italianos.
I mean, we got. Oh,
Oh, yeah, shit, we got one.
we got.
Alright, there we go. Oh,
Damn.
you
mean Cletus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So religion.
Yeah, religion.
Okay.
Bring it back.
Bringing it back. Okay. So is there anywhere you wanted to start? Did you have a question that you thought of or was thinking about before?
Well, actually, where we should start is normally where you shouldn't start when it comes to having conversations and stuff. And it's talking about the differences in opinions.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we can all
So-
start with what we think.
Yeah. So, what's going to be ironic for listeners is we don't have an atheist sitting at the table,
Yeah.
and the reason we don't is because to a certain extent, I am one. So I heavily propagate the idea that what God is, or what created us, or anything like that, is totally up in the air. And just as we can't prove it doesn't exist, we can't prove it does either. And that's how I handle that. And so when it comes to the spaghetti monster side of things, I am the representative.
Meatballs raining.
Yeah, meatballs.
Meatballs raining.
And RyGuy, what are you?
I mean, I think all of us were raised Catholic pretty much.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
were.
to a certain extent, to a certain degree, we were either in a Catholic school or we were
In a Catholic family.
in a Catholic family.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what happened. But, going through what, 12 or more years of schooling completely based around Catholicism, you know, it's kind of a lot.
It is.
And for me, like, that, I used to, you know, my whole family used to say they thought I was going to be a priest because, you know, I was super into the religion. I loved it. You know, it was something that was super cool. And you just felt super special. When I was young. Yeah, no, I know.
I knew you?
No,
Okay,
no, I was younger.
That's what I was wondering.
And that was my original thing, was like I loved the faith. You know, that was me. But
Absolutely.
the more and more I learned about it, and the more and more I learned about history, and the more and more people that I encountered that were just super like, this is the only thing that's correct, those type of people.
Oh, yeah.
I've got
That
family
made it
members
so
like that.
hard for me, because you're supposed to self-discover your faith. And when it's
Absolutely.
shoved down your throat, you can't do that. So for me, it kind of turned me off to the idea of Catholicism. Not that I'm against it. I'm still Catholic. I don't practice, but, you know, I believe there's a higher power to some extent, but I don't.
You're not a practicing Catholic.
I'm not a practicing Catholic. And that's kind of where I stand. You know, I believe in a higher power, whether that be us in a future way or a higher dimension, whatever it is. I believe in something.
Could you describe your belief as you hold Catholic values and traditional feelings, but you do not, you're not part of the community?
This is a good way to put it.
Okay.
You know, I believe in the Catholic morals. You know, there's certain things, you know, there's
You believe
some
in
things
the
that are a
written-
little extreme.
Yeah.
And then there's other things that I'm just like, I mean, that's
Well, actually,
basic human nature moral.
Yeah, for viewers' sake, we should probably get out and say that, like, because, you know, there's a bunch of stereotypes with Catholicism specifically.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody at the table has a problem with, like, homosexuality, for instance.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if anything,
No.
I'm an extreme Catholic, but my brother is gay, and we still accept him in our family.
My sister's lesbian. So
Exactly. I was going to say,
Yeah. No, but and I'm super libertarian, socially speaking. So, like, dude, what you do behind closed doors is none of my fucking business.
yeah, it's
Exactly.
your
Yeah,
life.
like,
Live your life, right?
Yeah.
You know?
The Constitution doesn't say you can't be gay, guys, so be gay. That's how I handle that. Stone, how you
What's your stance on?
what's my stance? I've like I said, I've always been raised in the Catholic family. This has always been a big, important part of my life. One of the main stories that really ties to me is a story that my mother told me before me and all my, because I have 4 brothers, middle child of 5. And the story that my mother told me before my oldest brother was born was that she prayed to God. She wanted no girls. None at all. She wanted nothing but boys. And we look at here now, she's got all 5 sons. You can say that's coincident all you want, but that's 5 in a row. Whew.
It's a good, yeah.
And
Most
you're all
of-
shithead. I mean,
Yeah, pretty much.
Son of a bitch.
Most you'll get out of a daughter is my gay brother, but that's about it.
wait, what?
What?
Most you'll get out of a female or like a daughter figure
okay.
for my mom would be my gay brother.
No, I thought you were saying he had a daughter. And
Wait.
I'm like, did he adopt? I'm like, how'd that happen? All right, I understand. All right, Brace, go for it, my guy.
So for me, I'm kind of a, I guess you want to say, practicing Christian. I attend a small group and stuff, and we talk about the Bible.
What's small group, if you want to? If people
It's a
don't know.
college small group. If that is that what you're asking?
Like, what is a small group?
So
like
a
when
small
you
group,
meet-
we come
yeah.
together. It used to be small. It used to be like
Like a Bible study? kind
Yeah,
of?
yeah, so like a Bible study, you can call it that.
Okay, that
and
works,
but we talk about stuff in life and really gospel-centered conversations and how we interpret the gospel and how we bring that and share it with other people is really what we talk about. But for me, it's kind of new. So maybe over the last 2 years, I came to faith with Christianity. I'd gone to church with my grandma before. But it, felt routine, kind of like in the Catholic sense. I would, you would go in, sit in your pew, listen to the sermon, which was more of a lecture than anything.
Yeah.
And,
Like you were doing chores rather than being
and,
your own personal thing.
And when I went from, going from a Catholic church to going to United Methodist, it didn't seem like there was much difference. It was still the same thing. The only thing a little different was they seemed a little more lax on the rules. It didn't seem so traditional, but it was
So
still
rigid, right?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for me was the music, and music is a huge thing.
Well, I think music can also be different depending where you go. Like for me as a Mexican, Latin American, we are the difference between me going to an American standard English church compared to going to a Mexican church is very different in music.
Yeah.
Extremely different.
Yeah, and so I think in Catholic Church, they sing a lot of hymns, right from the book and, go that way. Well, United Methodist, they were a little more lax, and we would, listen to more modern day Casting Crowns, Chris Tomlin, those kind of guys. And now I go to my church currently, and it feels like you're at a party when you go in there. I mean, RyGuy, you can attest to that. You've gone to me.
Yeah, I went with you.
And I mean, they're in there, and it's 8:30 in the morning. You got your hands clapping. You guys are going off, and everybody's on stage. But it's a performance. But more so, it's just how do other Christians feel about spreading the gospel? But what is music? How do you transform the gospel and bring that out into just joy in a room?
Yeah.
On a Sunday morning.
It's your way of expression.
Yeah, and for
love for the faith.
Exactly. And for me, that's where I call home, that church now. And and Christianity is something that can happen, I feel like, with a lot of people anywhere. For me, it just happened to be at a coffee shop around a barrel with my college pastor. And, I was like, all right, let's do this. And, I was kind of all in. I was sold on it. So.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
I'm glad it worked out that well. I'm glad you found faith.
Yeah.
Something I do have to ask, though.
Mm-hmm.
How does your faith or the group you're involved with handle conversion of new people?
Instantly. I mean, like...
No, I mean, what's the policy? Do you guys actively go out and try to do stuff? Are there mission trips?
You know how Catholicism is always the best example because that's where we all come from. You know how you have to go through baptism, you have to go through.
There's that too. Yeah.
There's the whole process of becoming a Catholic.
So
what's the way for you?
So in my church, we do mission trips. We reach out. There's a lot of community outreach too. That's one way, but everyone is accepted. It doesn't matter, atheist, Catholic, wherever, Lutheran, doesn't matter where you're coming from.
So you're not so heavy-handed like a lot of traditional religions.
Yeah, and also my church and, for most Christians, baptism isn't also, you're saved after you're baptized. That's not, what we believe. Baptism is an outward reflection of your profession and faith. That's what it is. And it's just saying, I am born again. It's not, I am born. So I feel like in a lot of, in the Catholic Church, you're baptized as a baby, right? But really, we look at that and we say, how can baptism is a form of saying, I'm, confessing of my sins.
It's a communal, what's the word? Not confession. It's a communal, not event. What's it called? Spectacle. It's a communal spectacle. That is supposed to tell your whole community, or to go farther back in human history, tribe, that you profess this belief in something, right?
So for us, you're professing your faith in Christ, and that's what that comes down to. But, as a baby, that's not a great thing in, our eyes, because, and not to say you can't be, but it's saying, as a baby, you're born into a sinful world, but you yourself have not, indulged in sin. Now as adults, it's easier for us to, develop, habits, sex before marriage, as in the Bible is viewed as a sin, or, drinking to get drunk is considered a sin. And there's just other things, but when that's what baptism means for our church, is an outward reflection of your, confession in Christ.
As a disclaimer.
Yeah.
We're not bashing Catholicism.
No, not at all. No.
Because we're using it as a comparison.
Yeah,
and a lot of it, it's we all have experience with it, and we'll all say in the Catholic Church versus my church. Yeah, it's just a way. Say it like that. No, you're not. I just want to use that as a disclaimer.
The reason he's disclaiming is because we're all about to do it.
Absolutely.
If anybody's going to bash it, it's me, and it's not because I think Catholicism shouldn't exist or something. It's nothing like that. I think that Catholicism is in decline, and if they don't figure out how to evolve to a certain extent with a more free world thinking of things, which they have evolved a little bit here and there.
Francis.
If they don't evolve fast enough, they'll cease to exist, because in our free thinking society, which, depending on where you look, isn't so free thinking anymore.
On
right and left. You get too radical, and there's no more freedom of thought. If they don't develop some evolutionary qualities, they'll cease to exist real quick. The amount of non-denominational Christians is more than anything.
That's kind of why I kind of disagree, because Catholicism has stayed the same for probably Stone, 1,000 years,
1,000
or more.
It's in decline right now, though.
But the thing is, it has stayed exactly the same, except up until the 1960s when they changed it to the languages of the nation. versus it all being in Latin. It has not changed. Everything has been exactly the same structure. And there's a beauty to it because even though it hasn't changed in any way, it is exactly the same because you know you're believing in the exact same thing.
Absolutely, but I think what ShyGuy's coming out to is like the main reason it's on decline is like we said recently is that it's kind of be forced onto people. Mm-hmm. They're forced to take classes that they know not much about, and it feels more like a chore nowadays. Unfortunately,
not to mention. In my experience in Catholicism, I know it's not the same everywhere. I know at the private school you attended, RyGuy and Stone, you guys had a very different experience where you were able to ask questions and really debate subjects in Catholicism. Mm-hmm. Where I went to school, that wasn't the case. It was basically like when you discussed Catholicism in traits of our theology, you discussed it like it was Newton's laws of gravity or something.
And that's how it was in some classes. In some classes, it was like that. But in those other classes, that's where it was so important to me. Because there were some teachers who
wanted to foster that kind of
free-thinking ability. I'm a full believer in the fact that you have to self-discover your own faith. If you don't and someone tries to push it at you, you will turn it away faster than you could even think about it. You have to figure it out for yourself, for you to make a true judgment and for a true belief in something.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I mean, Brace, you could probably be a good advocate for that because you went to this church just to try it, right? Yeah. And now you are a huge part of it because they're open open and you discovered it yourself and they allowed you to discover it yourself. Absolutely. It wasn't that this is the only truth. This is what you're going to believe. And that's it. That's not how it was. They said, all people are welcome. Come in and see what we have to say.
Right.
This is our way of professing our faith to the Lord. And then you were able to discover it yourself. And I think that creates a stronger bond with God or with your beliefs or with a higher power than anything. So, I mean, that's my opinion.
Well, being more open-ended like that is definitely the way to do it. Throughout my entire life, if I'm forced to do something, if
you want to turn it away,
if you don't talk to me like I'm an equal, if you don't discuss it with me, I'm sure I give my dad a fucking aneurysm every time he asks me to do a chore or something because I'm like, why? And he's
do that too.
He's like, bitch, because I want you to mow the lawn. And I'm like, but why?
Why now? Why couldn't it
Why can't it be tomorrow or the next day? And then he'll explain like. With your schedule, if you let it get too long, it mulches the grass and everything, all this shit. Plus, if you do it, I won't harp on you so much. And I'm like, okay, fuck, I'll mow the lawn. That's how it works.
But it is one of those things that where you gave a great comparison. It feels like a chore nowadays to people. People like, I gotta
did for me.
I gotta go to church on Sunday. I gotta attend theology class. I gotta do this theology. It's like you're not connecting to it. You're just trying to do it and get it out of the way. Because right now, in a lot of people's cases, it's in their way. It doesn't feel like religion to them. It just feels like some homework.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
In their way.
Yeah.
Is that how you feel about it, or do you feel differently?
I feel very different, but that's because I was raised in a Catholic family. But I actually have had this feeling when I was around in high school, because a lot of the theology teachers were really strict with it. They weren't really explaining it too much. They just read off a book and go like, do the homework. Yeah. They didn't really connect with me. They didn't really do much.
Yeah, and you'd think in a position where you're supposed to teach the theology and beliefs out of the religion, that's when they'd be the most flexible and the most able to discuss in-depth ideas.
They tried to connect with you. Rather than that, they just read off a book and go like, all right, here it is.
Like the fucking nun from Game of Thrones. Shame. That was my experience in private school. Yeah. Have any of you guys watched Game of Thrones?
I have not watched Game of Thrones.
No.
What the fuck?
We all said no. That's fine. No.
You guys.
I know.
You're all about to get access to my HBO Go.
You're all off the podcast. Yeah.
Thank God.
Including myself. Yeah. I'm just gonna. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I'm going to sidetrack us a little bit, still talking about theology. But in Catholicism specifically, wasn't there a point in time when Jesus Christ in the Bible was exiled to the desert or something? Right? And he encountered...
For 40 days?
Yeah.
That story?
Yeah, and he, didn't have food or water. And I think he ended up having direct conversation with Satan and arguing theology.
Yes.
To a certain extent, right? Because I'm not that well read up on this kind of stuff. But I am an avid watcher of Jordan Peterson, and he's well read on it, and he explains these stories from the Bible and how they can relate to real life. Regardless of whether or not you're religious, there is still meaning in these stories to a certain extent. What that means, because what's interesting is in every single religious text, whether it's Muhammad, Jesus, Buddha, the main character or the Messiah figure has an exodus from society and has to spend time in isolation, and when they come back, they're enlightened. So if the point of Christianity and Catholicism is to try to resemble Jesus Christ and walk in his footsteps the most you can, shouldn't we allow defection from the religion and allow them to come back on their own, changed?
Absolutely. That's what something RyGuy was saying. Like, it's not a matter of fact that this religion should be shoved down your throat. It's a matter of fact that you should find it on your own. You shouldn't have to just learn it from a book or anything. It has to be something that has to come to you naturally.
And I also really dislike the communal aspect in religion, because I've come to my own deistic conclusions about religion and higher powers and stuff. I personally think whatever the higher power is, whether it's a godlike figure in the clouds or whether it's an alien species that uses us as a nature preserve, I'm okay with either. I think they have a very hands-off approach.
The box.
Reference to episode 2. I think they have a really hands-off approach. They watch, they don't do.
See,
they don't control things.
I want to
in my opinion. Yeah, and if you want to argue that,
no, that's great. Because to me,
great, but I'm about to tell you something.
Yeah. Let me tell you something.
Bud. Lean into the table.
For me, I've always believed that, God put us on this earth for a reason, and that reason was, his idea for what we should be as, believers in him. So what we do is we run our lives, right? We think it's just normal. We make our decisions and everything. But for me, that's part of his plan. Every choice we make, every decision, because he's one step ahead of us. He knows what our ultimate decision is. We choose to be sinful in a sense, and he goes, I know you're going to sin. And that's why my son, Jesus Christ died on the cross for you. Nothing is more humbling than saying, here's my only kid, here. Kill him, and that's fine. Yeah, and your sins are all forgiven. So for me, that's like, wow, that's something powerful. But really, it's a game plan that God has created for us, and it's his own playbook. He says, here's how I'm going to have you, marching your life. Here's the steps that's going to happen. Here's the choices you're going to make. And he knows every little bit about. He knows when we're going to die. He knows when we're going to get married. He knows when we're going to get sick. He knows all that kind of stuff. To me,
my question though.
Yeah.
So, do you believe in free will?
Yes, absolutely.
And that's what's the argument that's super hard.
Yeah.
If you believe in free will, that sounds like predestination.
Predestination.
That's what that sounds like.
I think the argument Brace is having is that God is leading you to a path. He's not forcing you on a path, but he's leading you. There are some things that will be happening that he's trying to deliver a message saying you should try and do this.
Right.
But free will have you choose what to do on that said decision. Everything happens for a reason.
But do you think that the end result is always the same?
Yes.
So regardless of what you choose, the end result is we always die.
Right.
That's the end result.
So I could walk out into the street today and get hit by a bus, and God said, at the age of whatever, you're going to get hit by a bus on this street on this day. And he knows that. I don't believe that our choices necessarily influence our future. Let me put this. It's different to say, I choose to be a chemist or I choose to be an engineer, and that's my future, right? That's a free will choice there, but God has a predestiny for us.
And whether you choose to follow that is your choice.
Yes,
but you have to notice the signs.
Yeah,
you have to see the signals and see the things.
But he knows what our choices are. Is what I'm getting at. Our free will, he already knows.
So we disagree heavily, clearly.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to figure it out. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
So let me throw in some of my own personal disclaimers, because when it comes to the faith argument, I'm the least faith-driven out of the four of us, I would say. Obviously, we're going to keep this civil.
Yeah.
Right?
Nah.
Also...
yeah, fuck that. Wrestling on the table.
This is more for... is more for the viewers than it is for us trying to change each other's minds.
Yeah.
Right? This is about discussing the difference in opinion. As I say what I'm about to say, I am not trying to change your mind. I'm actually really happy in your newfound faith.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy for you, and it's not my goal to change your mind. When when I was at university for football, there was actually a pastor that I'd talk to on a regular basis, and I held back a great deal of the time because I'm not trying to change I'm not trying to change a man's whole career based on my deistic feelings of it. A couple of points I want to touch on now that that's out of the way. To me personally, predestination defeats the purpose.
What do you mean?
So, my experience in life, because obviously a lot of my theological views are based on how I've been able to make the world flexible and malleable and able to change things myself, right? How to explain it? What I see on a regular basis with people and why religion can be a good thing is because without religion in society or without religion having created this society, there's a lack of purpose. That doesn't mean you have to believe in something to have purpose. That doesn't mean you have to be Christian. It doesn't mean you have to go to church. It doesn't mean any of that. You can be an atheist and have purpose. Your morals still came from a religion, though. Not only was our country founded on a religion, every country was founded on a religion. The human race was founded on religion. It always has been. That's not the Christian religion. Maybe it's fucking sun god, rain god.
Right.
Actually, I think with the Mesopotamians, it actually was a sun god, but it was a real person, actually, when they did it. Predestination defeats the purpose because the whole point in life, as far as I can tell, is to be better than you were yesterday, and it's not... The purpose of life is to not be happy and to not be a good-willed individual. It's to have the proclivity for evil and be good anyway.
Okay,
and
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and that requires active fighting every day.
Yeah.
That requires waking up in the morning and say, how do I make myself a better person than yesterday?
Yeah, and I really like that approach. I think that's great. But for me, it's hard to fathom that something isn't, if God is omnipotent, right? He possesses all the power. He knows, this is why people look up to him. Then how does he not know what decisions I'm going to make in 20 seconds from now, to snap my fingers or,
I feel like he could know. God is omniscient, right?
Yeah.
At least in the sense of Catholicism, whatever. We believe that if there is a God, he is omniscient. He knows all. Okay. Uh-huh. He or she, whatever God. Okay. It's 2020. We can be progressive, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Progressive. It.
Yeah.
It's everything.
They.
Yeah.
Okay.
They.
Where's I going?
I don't know.
Okay. What were you just saying?
To be all...
There's
omniscient. Okay.
If he's omniscient,
I think
predestiny not a thing.
Right. I think when you said playbook, it was the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
Because when you think of it in the way that you think of it, like he knows what I'm gonna do in 20 seconds. He knows what I'm gonna do here, here, and here.
Yeah.
I feel like he knows all of the possibilities, but whether those possibilities happen are your choice.
Yeah.
And I think what leads the free will factor is that God has his playbook and he's looking and he's like, all right, cool. You could do this play and you could become an accountant. You could do this play and you could go that way and become a drug addict. Mm-hmm. This is the playbook. Okay. But that's the thing. Yeah. There's God's playbook and Satan's playbook if you want to play it that way.
Right.
But these decisions that you make ultimately lead you to whatever that end result is. God has a quote plan for you, but you have the choice to choose to get on that path. And that's what I think. I think there's a playbook available. But whether you choose to do it and make those plays is up to you.
That's where I would agree with you there, because that's how I view free will. But as I also have come from an extremely religious family, I've always feel like I've gotten signs from God. You should do this. Go forward with this. Or he's given me tips. He's given me like a little push forward to go in this certain direction. But there's like plenty of options that I probably didn't take God's advice to go in that direction. And I took a different way, and so I didn't follow God's plan every single way, but he probably has a way to get me back to where he wants me to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my next question to you guys is, do you guys believe in coincidences?
I do.
You do?
I do, absolutely.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, it is a hard question.
I must say no. It's a no for me, dog. Uh-huh. I don't believe in coincidences.
You might need to articulate what a coincidence is.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I'm trying to think of a good example now. Yeah.
You mean when something happens,
right place, right time.
It looks like it has to be divine intervention.
Yeah.
Is what you're
So
saying.
Or not, you know.
Yeah.
Just
So,
like a coincidence.
I don't know. Like, I bumped into Margaret in the supermarket. Oh, what a
And
coincidence!
then I got married to her 5 years later.
Yeah,
you
and
know,
that's
some shit
just
like that.
But no, for me, I don't believe in coincidences. But I want to know what you guys think or why.
Oh,
wait.
I absolutely believe in coincidences, but
Uh-huh.
I think there's an element of luck, but I don't think luck is supernatural.
Okay.
It's there are so many variables and factors in life on a regular basis, and just like in a video game, when you roll proverbial dice with RNGesus, right? Just because what you want to happen happens doesn't automatically mean that was divine intervention. It's random to a certain extent. So, like, if somebody gets hit with a bunch of coincidences over and over and over again, I guess mathematically speaking, it makes sense. Because not only does the math say it's unlikely, the math says there's no reason it can't at the same time. You get what I'm saying? Flip a coin and you get heads every time, the 50% stays the 50%.
Sidetrack question. Not sidetrack. Universal question.
Yeah.
Do you think that the universe...
Balls deep in the box.
Balls deep in the box.
Yeah.
Do you think... That's like a... Anyway.
That's a meme now.
It's a meme. It's a meme now.
That's what I named episode 2.
Oh, nice.
Or
So-
episode 1?
1.
Yeah,
Episode
episode
1. Boy?
Yeah, boy.
So, do you believe that the universe is just a large mess of chaos, or do you believe it's linear and that there's a structure to it?
Well, see, now... Okay, so I was...
Okay, let's not go on a tangent, but
Yeah,
it's an honest question because it kind of plays into the role of God, too.
I was trying to be more atheistic to represent that perspective. But what I truly believe is the universe is a machine. All right? Especially the way gravitational pull works, the way everything moves. It's like proverbial gears turning a machine all the time. Day-night cycles, the way that works, it's the same amount of time every time. You know
There's
what I
a
mean?
formula.
There's a formula to everything. And I think whatever God is or the higher power is or whatever advanced civilization created this shit, the architects or architect is what I would rather refer to calling it rather than God. Set everything up, but he set up the machine to take care of itself.
Self-sufficient machine.
Exactly. And I'm not saying the individual doesn't matter at all. That would directly disagree with every ideology I proprietary at all. But in the grand scheme, they don't.
Okay.
In the scheme of the machine. So technically, human beings in the grand scheme of the machine that we inhabit, we'd be like dust mites living on the gears as they spin to a certain extent. And that doesn't mean we don't matter. Because, well, I mean, what was the machine built for if
Right.
not us, right? But I think at the beginning of time, he started the kinetic energy necessary to get things spinning and left it. Now, if it is omniscient, which it very well might not be the way I believe in things, if it is omniscient, if the architect truly knows what's going to happen, he created a system in which he doesn't, intentionally. It serves a purpose. This machine's supposed to run a certain way, but what the machine does, I think the architect would have left to chance, personally. And that's kind of how life goes to a certain extent. Life, I believe, the way the machine was designed is much more reminiscent of a simulation in which we can change the variables and affect them. And that's the whole point, is for it to be malleable and changeable and to be affected by our hands.
It's a flexible machine.
That's the whole point
Okay.
of reality as we know it, is for it to be able to change. And that we talked about it in an earlier episode. I think it was episode 1. I hate change. I can't. I look into
Curmudgeon.
I am. That term describes me perfectly. It's as I try to discover meditation techniques, as I look into some Buddhist concepts and Stoic concepts and stuff, accepting the fact that everything is always subject to change all the time is the hardest thing for me ever.
Yep.
And it's not that I don't want anything to change, it's just the unpredictability of it and the fact that can't ever sit down at the end of the day and know 100% everything is okay, right? And that messes with me a little bit. But now that I've explained my whole fucking belief set, the reason I can't believe in predestination is because I can't believe that Judas in the Bible was destined to go to hell. Because if God is benevolent and not evil, how could he create something for eternal damnation like that? And the same thing with Satan. He would have created Satan for the same purpose. Or Lucifer for the same purpose. And I don't believe a benevolent being, because I'm not saying it is. If it isn't, then it's very probable that he created them for that purpose. But if it's truly benevolent, like a lot of Christian faiths teach, and Islam to a certain extent, I mean, of course you've got radical Islam that like blow themselves up, but you also got radical Christianity that's like a fucking cult and sacrifices people.
Is that like evangelical? Shit.
Yeah.
Or steals everybody's money in massive theaters, right? Like evangelicals.
I mean, that all of what you're saying kind of ties into both the fallen angel story and Adam and Eve.
It all ties into
it's all the same thing. Like, God created humans with the intention for them to be perfect, like in the Garden of Eden. And then Eve was like, fuck it, I'm going to eat this apple. And then she ate the apple, and now humanity fell.
Yeah.
And unless God, or unless the architect created us to fall and lose the imago Dei, image of God, he's not benevolent if that was his intention.
God wanted us to be perfect, but he also gave us free will.
He gave us a choice.
He gave us a choice, and that's where it falls. Do you know like the Adam and Eve story?
Yeah, and I understand saying like free will. I'm all for that. I believe we all do, but I still think our free will. I still feel like that what he knows what our choice is going to be with our free will. If that makes sense.
Is it like a guided free will?
Not so much, because he's not telling us, hey, go for this. He's saying this is the right answer. Here's the wrong answer. Right. Here's what the gospel says. This is, the quote unquote right answer. And here's, what the gospel says not to do. Don't eat the fucking apple. That's the wrong thing to do. But our free will said, I'm going to do it anyways. So you do it. And he goes, all right, I knew you were going to do that. But here's the next step.
But that's hard though.
Yeah.
Because he says, I knew you were going to do that.
Couldn't you make the wrong choice every time and then your predestined plan is fucked?
What, to go to hell? Or do you mean?
In general.
No, just in general. And also if predestiny is a thing the way you
I gotta
believe
pee.
it.
God damn it. I'll be back.
Right.
Every fucking episode I've had to
got
take a
a
piss. All right. Anybody need anything? Anybody?
Can I get a water?
Okay. You want Pepsi? Okay.
All right.
I'll be back.
Obviously, I'm not trying to change your mind.
No, I understand that. Yeah.
Get that completely. Especially because you can believe whatever the fuck you want.
That's the coolest thing.
As long as you're not pushing it on other people,
Yeah.
and they don't want it, then you
Yeah.
believe whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, it's literally just it's like
freedom of thought.
right for your religion.
Everything.
So.
Yeah, exactly. I can't believe in predestiny because, I mean, the way it's laid out in the Bible and stuff, isn't the whole point of human beings is to be imperfect and to try to overcome your nature and to try to walk like Christ the most you can.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And if that's the whole purpose, there has to be a certain level of autonomy. So, the reason I said we were like dust mites living on the cogs in the machine is because we're not part of the machine. We interact with it.
Right.
But we are our own automaton creations.
Yeah.
And to get even further, a way that the architect really could have a hands-off perspective, theorizing here, is if the architect didn't create us. The machine he created us. With its own autonomy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing to try to conceptualize, because it really means we are, to a certain extent, on our own.
I understand where you're coming from, absolutely, but I think that's one of more of those things on how you interpret your religion, in my opinion. Because there was a specific class I took in high school that really taught to me that was called in Faith and Science, and the main thing that it pointed out at the beginning is to say right off the bat, which is a lot of problems people have, is they try to comprehend faith into a science. Faith is not a science at all.
No.
It is a belief system. It is something that you truly believe in your heart and that you think will happen. To try and comprehend something beyond our power, you got to think yourself to death doing that.
I haven't. Not yet.
You're getting close.
You think I'm going to think myself to death?
You're like...
I'm going to think to death.
Well, it's ironic because I do use that term, actually. If I have like a weak spot where I've got an anxiety spike or something, I'm loving it.
You want ice?
No.
Okay.
Where I've got a weak spot or something, where I'm overthinking things. And
Really?
thank you.
Got you, bro. It's a twist.
Okay, good.
Yeah, okay.
So where I'm overthinking things, if I can't get rest because of it, if I'm having issues, I will say I'm thinking myself to death.
Yes.
And the best thing that I can describe that to is the Halo series, to be totally honest. Where, that's weird, I just saw the parallel in my belief system in Halo. That's
Lord.
fucking weird.
Yeah, there he goes again.
Yep.
Thinking myself to death.
Hey, Ricky
like I
over
said.
here aka Brace.
Yeah, when Cortana started
played
thinking herself to death
Yeah.
with rampancy, because AIs have a lifespan, and at the end of their life,
Isn't it really like 7 years?
it is 7 years,
7
actually.
years? Yeah.
Which is such an arbitrary
I know.
number. It's so
It's
random.
a God number.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the God number.
It
7.
is?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, there's
I don't know why.
That's
7
why you have to keep
days.
financial documents for 7 years too for internal audits.
Shut the fuck
Sorry.
up.
I didn't know that.
7 years.
So, audience, Brace has a financial background, obviously. But, yeah, so, I mean, I guess you could think yourself to death, but on a regular basis, especially when I talk to people of faith and stuff, or me personally, how far I've gotten. Obviously, I don't know a lot of motivations of the architect, or if there is something out there, and there's a lot of open-ended possibilities. Mm-hmm. But as far as I've gotten, I don't have a whole lot of questions left that I need answered to be content.
Absolutely.
My faith system or belief system and how I think things work and what's the most logical reason, I personally feel I've combined faith and science 100%. And I'm fine.
To combine them is absolutely fine. To say they're the same thing is different.
Oh, I mean, I guess in a way.
Are you saying?
In a way, I am saying they're the
Are
same
you saying
thing,
religion and science, like faith and science?
He said he
saying,
took
or like other faiths.
He took
like,
a class where
when you were on going over
I'm
there,
sorry, I had to pee. Okay, I'm sorry.
I was telling them on how I took a high school class. I don't know if you took it, called Faith and Science.
Oh no, I didn't take that one.
When the first thing they interpreted and they let you know right off the bat was faith is not science. That is a very important line to understand. And the main thing to understand with faith is that it is your own personal belief system. It is what you truly believe in your heart. And I think there's a problem that a lot of people have nowadays. And I think it's a problem because, like we discussed earlier, when this is being shoved down our throats like a chore or like homework, you have to try to figure it out like homework. You got to figure out a problem. You got to figure out a solution. You got to figure out something. And then there's always going to be something in your head that's trying to make you, why doesn't this connect with this? Why doesn't this connect with that?
It's your logical reasoning. And
at the end of the day, you're trying to sit there and understand, why don't I know God perfectly?
Well, it doesn't.
You're not going to know that.
I don't think it helps that in our culture. I think it helps because it's free thinking. Because
crack it open to cold.
Because it's a free thinking habit. I think it's a good thing. But it doesn't help theology that it's in our nature, especially in our culture here in the United States, to rebel against things when you're told it has to be one way.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean it's
in our very
the nature of freedom and free will right there.
Yeah.
If you're told to do something, you
even
want to do it.
Even if it's not in your genetics, if you immigrated from another country, because I strongly believe that if you immigrate, you're an American. If you wanted to be here and you left your home to be here, you're my countryman, man.
My like great grandparents did that.
So did mine. Shit. So I don't see a difference between my countrymen who immigrated and the ones who were born here. Actually, if anything, the immigrated ones share more in my freedom value system.
We wouldn't have been born here if someone didn't immigrate here.
Young people don't these days. A lot of young people don't agree with me on a lot of my freedom values, but immigrants do. So it's.
Well, it's because they understand the difference between what they had before and what they have now.
They've seen the shit. Depending on where they're from, they've really seen the shit.
Yeah. Especially with my family. My mom, who immigrated from Mexico, definitely sees the difference between what she had before and what she had then. Before, a shower to her was a bucket with holes. Now we have a whole house that she built she fixed all completely. That was a completely destroyed house, completely. We had a hole in the floor. And she fixed it all up herself and my stepdad. And they absolutely understand these values.
Well, to bring things full circle again, that is why I think we have free will. Because, how do I explain it? That's why I think it's a hands-off perspective, because it was the act of bringing order to a chaotic situation. A lot of people, to a certain extent, think humanity and nature are part of the same force, and we're at the whims of nature. I mean, to a certain extent, if nature is considered chaotic and human beings can bring order to a certain situation, maybe our purpose is to refine chaos into order.
And this order was already there.
Yeah, but...
And it was just perceived chaos, because we didn't know better.
I don't know. A dilapidated house, bringing order to it, I don't know. There's a purpose-driven thing there, making something your own, being a self-made American.
I get
that kind of stuff. It's just not predestined to me. It's to a certain extent it's luck, and that's part of why we need to respect it so much. But
for me, for the example I gave of my family, I think it's where I believe coincidence to an extent. To that, I believe it was because my family is extremely religious, and we have good reason to. My mom came from an extremely poor background to what we have now. We have come really far in my family, and we always thank God for all this, because I don't think without the guidance of God, my mom would have been here. Because I think it's one of those things that I don't think predestined is but I think there's a pre-plan that we can follow.
The playbook idea.
Yeah, the
playbook idea.
I've heard this concept before, and we can actually relate it to episode 1, the box. Right?
Balls deep.
Well, so it's I can't draw the diagram because our viewers can't fucking see it. So imagine life is a map, right? You're on
map.
Yeah, map. Life's a map, and you're on a path, and that path branches in 2 different directions. The multiverse theory is that if you take path right, somewhere in the multiverse, you just created a new universe where you went left instead.
Mm.
And I guess where we could combine that theory and yours is, instead of it being planned out what path you're going to take, the options are planned out. The routes.
Oh, I see what you're saying now.
Yeah,
because that makes sense for just to say that a higher being says, "Here are your options,"
and you're taking that one.
This is what
it's more. It's more. Here's the possibilities. Make your choice.
Mm-hmm. I think that kind of ties everything we were talking about into one idea right there.
It does.
Because, Brace was talking about his idea. We're all sitting here like, that's predestination, dude. What the fuck? But like, and then it all ties into that. That's perfect. Well, because it's imagined like a tree.
Yeah.
Like a tree
Time
branches
out, though.
going out in different sections.
Does Brace agree with that, though?
That are...
Do you think it's an option system?
I think it's a good way to describe it, yeah.
That we're in charge of? I see, and now that's where it's hard, because I think we, like you were saying, we do have options, absolutely. But now I think beyond those options, I think our higher being knows which one we are ultimately going to choose.
You really don't think it changes the outcome
of my life?
Yeah.
No.
See, maybe we have to bleep this bit out of the podcast. We'll determine after I say it.
Okay.
Actually, wait, no, we talk about your family background.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, okay. So, Brace, I don't know how you can see the bottom and the top and see how much leeway you have to move in there and not attribute it to yourself.
What do you mean by that?
It's your actions that get you there. It's the environment you didn't create, but you can control.
Mm-hmm. So... I think still, as, I was born right into, a family. I had a mom and a dad. And then it just happened to be that later we discovered, hey, they're not great parents. And this isn't the environment you need to be in. Yes, it was the choice of partly me and partly my grandparents to say, hey, we're going to take custody of you. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. But I think God knew initially from even birth that, hey, these aren't going to be great parents. And this is what's going to happen to this kid in 20 years from now.
That makes sense, especially from your perspective. The part that I'm struggling with is if life is inherently a test, do you agree that it's a test to determine your fate after life ends, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. How can you
say it's a test?
But your test score is already decided before you start filling in answers.
Yeah. Well, that's like a teacher, right? A teacher makes a test that can say all the answers are going to be D, but my students are going to look around and go, I think this one's A, but this one's B, or this one's C. And really, the teacher says, nope, it was all D, and all of you just happened to pick different answers, but just didn't realize later on that, hey, the answer was D all along.
I think you might misunderstand the question a little bit.
All right.
It's if there's no unpredictability or no variable change that can happen from each person who takes the test, why does the result matter? So if from the moment you're born you're predestined to go to hell, like with Judas, for instance, wasn't that a waste of a life?
To have them... Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
For Judas, his existence.
You're created to be thrown in the trash. That doesn't seem...
Right. And I think sometimes...
Christian.
In some of those cases, nowadays, that's something that's changed. We talk about the Old and the New Testament, right? There are some things that are acceptable in the Bible back then, but aren't, today we could... Back then we could have had, 5 different wives and it didn't matter. Now today people are,
Well, there's so many... fractures in the Christian faith as well. From Catholicism specifically, it's like you had Wesleyan, you had Lutheran, you had Catholicism, Nazarene sprouted out of there somewhere. You got all this crazy shit, and it's everyone believes in a different theological base. The one I proprietary the most, so I stretch it a little bit farther than it's meant to. Like when I say that God may not be a God, right? It might be, I mean, for all I know, we could be living in a simulation, and that's the test. Because what's cool when I combine science and faith that way, it still serves the same purpose as your religion does, to a certain extent. It's just a more scientific, to me, believable way of how that would work.
Yeah.
And because I do believe these values and these systems bring a purpose to people's lives, and that's important. I see it in technologically advanced societies, in ones where a society is bored. There's a lack of purpose, and when there's a lack of purpose, you get a rise in really terrible things. Like, for instance, something that's interesting is when you look at our society today, you see crazy parallels to Greek society at its height, and Roman society at its height, and some Chinese dynasties at their height, and Middle Eastern caliphates at their height, when economic prosperity was the highest and class division was the largest, and they were the strongest. You see rates in suicide go up, and you see more domestic violence, and you see more substance abuse. The Romans created one of the first chemical abortions at the height of their existence because they like to participate in swapping wives very often. And I believe these things are products of a bored society, a lack of purpose. And in our society, I think the reason everybody's so fucking obsessed with drugs all the time, which I actually proprietary legalization of most drugs. I don't do them, and I don't want to. But I think that's because I don't have a lack of purpose.
Yeah.
I think that happens to a lot of people who get into psychedelics, which, disclaimer, I'm very curious about psychedelics.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. I'm just not fucking with them because I really like my mind the way it is. And from the people I talk to with it, sounds like it leaves permanent effects. And I'm not ready to fuck with that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the reason people look into that kind of stuff is because they think there's something they can see. They think there's a purpose to everything that they can see if they break down the barriers that are stopping them from seeing it. The main god in Egyptian mythology, I think it's Ra. No, not Ra. Which one is it? Horus or something like that?
I think so.
He's known as the god who can see everything. That's why he's the most powerful, is because he can see everything. And in his hero's journey, when he gets isolated away from the rest of the pantheon and the rest of society and has to go fight their god of the underworld, their version of Hades, he loses an eye. And it's a symbol that because he made that heroic, stoic choice, he got scarred forever from it. And even though he still has his power, he has half the power he used to. And it's the story is supposed to explain that choice was worth it. And that he, even though it made him weaker, it was worth it for everything else, I guess, in the end. My whole point is religion is supposed to inspire purpose. It's supposed to inspire community in some aspects, but frankly, I personally think that's when religion loses control. Or not loses control, gets out of control, is when it becomes a governing factor.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm a big proprietor of separation of church and state.
Yeah.
It's when that... I'm losing my argument a little bit.
Sorry.
My whole point is it's a choice. It's gotta be a choice, because otherwise, what's the point of creating the simulation?
Or what's the point of creating intelligent life if you don't give them the opportunity to be intelligent?
Yeah, also, the Imago Dei concept, we're made in God's image, doesn't that mean we're made autonomously? Because even if we don't have as much power as God, don't we still have autonomy? Isn't that the point? The reason we're not God's machines, the reason we're not God's pawns, the reason we're not God's... they do use the sheep term. Actually, no, sheep, that doesn't work. The reason we're not God's plants in his garden is because we're God's children. Is because we're God's sheep. Because sheep wander from the flock, and sometimes when they wander from the flock, they get eaten by wolves. And that's the whole point, is that there's an active choice in all the decisions you make on a regular basis, I think. And that's what I decipher from the teachings the most.
Yeah.
That's just what makes the most sense to me. obviously. And clearly I'm not trying to change your mind.
No, not at all.
Okay.
And like that's the coolest thing is that we all sit here and just talk about something.
Fucking
You're not
3 in the
attacking me at
morning.
all. Like,
3 in the
yeah,
morning.
what
shooting
I've-
shit.
What I've learned a lot from Buddhist and Stoic teachings and stuff that I've been into a lot lately, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So even though I think I know how the universe works and I'm enlightened and everything, it's none of my fucking business to make somebody else believe that unless they ask.
yeah, like change my mind and then
Yeah.
work
Who's that
towards
guy that does that?
Oh,
Steven
it's
Crowder.
Yeah.
oh, is that where he sits
awesome,
at the
yeah.
table? And
He's
is
like, he's got the
change my
coffee
mind?
cup. He's like, change my mind.
Yeah. Like it's not. I'm not supposed to throw shit out of balance, even if I haven't figured it out. I don't want to start a new religion. I don't want to.
Ready for story
I
time?
don't want to be a prophet or something.
Sure.
Story time. Okay.
Wish it might be in some
Lord.
beer ups.
Well, okay. We had this. I don't know if you had the same teacher as me, but I'm not going to say his name for anonymity's sake.
This is Catholic school, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
but so I was curious, and I started asking a lot of questions in one of my classes. And one of them was, I don't know if I had an epiphany or I was watching a YouTube video and I was seeing what other religions do, or I was thinking of whatever it may be. I walked, and my question was, I was like, or statement, aren't all religions basically the same thing? Don't they all, besides ones that spread hate, I don't consider them religions, but they all have the same goal of some type of afterlife. They all have some sort of prophet or Messiah or Muhammad or somebody like that who preaches the words of wisdom. They have all of these similarities that you can line up. I mean, everybody has their belief, but they all have that.
The hero's journey.
Yeah, that's the hero's journey. They all have that similar aspects in a lot of ways. And my question to this theology teacher was, aren't they all the same in some way, but they're all just different cultures? They all it's their own interpretation of the whole point of life.
Yeah.
And the way that he described it to me this is honestly the moment that kind of threw me away from Catholicism, is because imagine a diagram.
You're right though.
This is what the moment right here is. He told me, he said, think of it this way. He said, think of it like one of those circle mazes, okay? How there's like different layers to the circle,
Oh, right.
okay?
Yeah.
He said the center where you win is Catholicism. The center is the truth. That's where you want to be, is the center. He's like, that is the truth. He's like, you're not trying to escape. He's like, that's the truth. The center is Catholicism. And the ones that have similarities to it are in the outer rings. He's like, Catholicism is in the center. And then you go to different sects of Christianity. That's the ring outside. I mean, it could be an example. Then there's like Buddhism. Then there's like the faith of Islam. There's Judaism. There's so many other ones. He's like, they all are outer rings of the truth. And I said, but that doesn't make any sense
That's
to me.
where I have an issue with people like that. Because as good as it is to believe in your faith, it is not good to completely shut out others.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be canceling other people's faith. You can like have a debate on each other's faith, but you shouldn't be going like, your faith is completely wrong. That is, I think in my eyes, unacceptable to do.
Unless
It
your faith
sucks,
is go ahead and kill,
Go ahead and kill that guy because he doesn't believe in you.
That's different.
I would say that's the problem with traditional religion to begin with. Not that there's nothing good in traditional religion, obviously there is. It created fucking society.
Yeah.
Right? In the vast majority of the oldest religions, the ones that have really stood the test of time, bring everything full circle about what you were talking about earlier, they have the most... I mean, part of the reason they stood the test of time is because when it comes to their followers, it's the most systematic, you don't get to think otherwise kind of concept.
Yeah.
And I think you see that in Catholicism. Well, you see it in the big three: Catholicism, Judaism, and Islam the most.
Yeah.
Your parents find out you're atheist, it's worse than transitioning to a different religion. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's because it's taught in the core text of every one of those religions that you're damned
Yeah.
for eternity if you stray from the flock.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, this is
That's where I have an issue, is like when people like that are immediately going, like, if you absolutely do not believe that you are 100% right, then you're screwed.
Damned to
You're
hell.
damned to hell, right?
And that's
It sucks.
Well, it's not only as an anti-free thought, but if you never... We have conversations about how some people in our society are too sheltered. How they don't realize what they have a lot of the time and stuff. How are you supposed to see the merits and the benefits of your religion if you never get to see the opposite? And if
Yeah.
the only time you get to see the opposite is through rose-tinted glasses that say your religion's the greatest amazing thing in the entire world.
Right.
And that's where I think people are like too locked down on the religion. Like,
Gotta have the isolation journey, man, and the hero's journey.
it's got to be your own thing, but you can't go like somebody else is wrong, because the moment you do that is the moment you try to make your faith into a science. Is the moment you try to go like, this is why I am right, this is my facts, and this is why you are wrong. And that's where I go like, no.
It's the path to governing militaristic religion as well. Is having to have
Slippery slope.
religious dominance over other belief systems. Not only is there no fucking place for that in a free-thinking society, it's how you get conflict. It just creates conflict. It creates militarism. Truthfully, I believe these religions are militaristic in their thought process and in their governing systems within their own communities is because they've had to learn how to stand the test of time. They've had to grow authoritarian to survive oppression, to survive persecution, to survive all of it. I'm sure Islam has been persecuted it's persecuted in China right now.
Yeah.
They're in concentration camps right now in China.
Yeah.
Islam is. And then Judaism, I don't think I need to say a single fucking thing about how they were persecuted.
Everybody
Nope.
knows. Yeah.
Christians have had loaded situation, normally by Islam, but yeah, it happens. They all attack each other, too, a great deal of the time.
And I don't
And
get
it's
that.
and it's those radical religious fanatics that
Exactly.
do that. There are those people that take it too far. There are those people that are trying to just go like, this is the only path, this is the only way, and this is the right way.
I mean, that's like one of the biggest vices of human nature is that, pride and like wanting, like saying, I'm right, you're wrong, and that's the answer, that's it.
Well, not just that, mob mentality, herd mentality. That's why it's so important. I don't like putting a specific name on religions. That's why when I talk about my ideology, when I talk about the fact that I'm more deistic and stuff, I say I'm more deistic. I don't say I'm a deist.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a deist. There's loads of things with deism I don't believe in 100%. I'm not a libertarian. There's loads of things with libertarian anarcho-capitalism that I want so bad that I know it doesn't work. Right?
Yeah.
I know I can't do it. I know it would fuck up various people in society that can't survive in that kind of system. And I don't want that.
I don't think a pure
anything
form
is
of
bad.
anything is bad.
Exactly. And I think when religion turns more into a communal governing thing instead of an individual spiritual thing,
#cult.
yeah, false. Well, that's what it is. The cult of Yahweh is one of the world's first recorded religions other than Mesopotamian culture, and it's the early precursor to Judaism, and it was one of the first.
Yahweh.
It's called the cult of Yahweh. I don't know why they call it a cult when there's really no difference between it and modern day religion. It was just one of the first recorded human religions where there's one God, one. And Yahweh, as far as we can tell, is the earliest recorded version of the Christian God. Because the funniest thing about the big three, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, is they're all monotheistic and they all very much so believe in a very similar
And that's what I was saying. Like, they all have the same goal in some way.
And that's
it's
where
just different interpretations of the larger scope of the story.
Different culture, different interpretations, and different purposes.
So how can you sit here and say, fuck your culture and your own stance and understanding of something? That doesn't make any sense to
That's
me.
where I had an issue with when you said with that teacher. Because the moment that teacher you said immediately tells you that this is the only right way, is the moment, like when we go back to the beginning, when we were talking about this, is the moment it feels like an objective or a chore. Like, this is the path.
Yeah.
This is the answer. Nothing else, nothing more. And then I think, like you said a lot earlier, why people stray away. Because they're being forced to go like, this is the only one. This is it.
It becomes
nothing
the only.
else.
It becomes the only objective truth.
And also, if somebody is trying to force you to do something instead of just offering it, if they want to force you to do something, it's for their own means, not yours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing my pastor, he was an associate pastor or something at my church, and something that really still sticks out to me is he always says criticism is hard on the heart. And I don't know anything that's more true than that, because for us to go and say, I just don't believe that about your religious views, you can say, wow, okay. But when we take it a step further and say, that's stupid, or I don't like the way you do that, that's
or you're
outright.
a witch.
Yeah.
Or you're a heretic.
Yeah, that's
It
outright.
gets worse, yeah.
And that's where I think that's where, we talk about the separation, whether it's the big three, and because there are religious leaders that outright say, the Jews, they're doing something bad over there. Don't be like them, or don't,
It becomes hostile. And
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't even,
It doesn't feel like faith anymore.
Exactly.
It feels like a military now.
yeah,
Or
and it's
governing
not,
system.
and that's the
Exactly.
reason we have wars over.
Over
we have
religious
a war
wars.
in
Yeah.
fucking America right now
Yeah.
over beliefs and how life should be lived.
What's interesting, though,
And
is
how the country should work. It's the same scenario.
It's more a war between atheism and Christianity, though, and that's interesting.
Yeah.
And what the atheists don't realize a lot of the time, even though they convert some Christians, the more you push, the more ingrained they're going to get, the more entrenched they're going to get in their beliefs, because
Because you come at me with something,
Yeah.
and I'm going to say, here's the facts that back that up, and they're going to say, well, here's the facts that I know, and they just...
Well, it's not just that. So, Christianity in general is in decline. More people leave or are born not being a religion than more people are.
Right.
Especially in the United States. In some places, that's different. In some, especially some third world countries, it's up.
Yeah.
I'm talking about in the United States specifically, where the intellectual war is taking place. They're becoming extinct, and if they're becoming extinct, I mean, push a wounded animal in the corner, and it's going to fight as hard as it can. It's counterproductive to what they're trying to do. They need to offer, if they think they're the reasonable option, they need to offer that, suggest it,
Not force it.
don't force it. And, I mean, frankly, you're not an enlightened, intelligent individual if you feel the need to change other people's perceptions if they're not hurting anybody.
I was gonna say, that's where I have to agree with you.
There's plenty of radical Christianity where they are hurting people, though.
Oh, yeah.
And radical every other
Yes.
religion, for that matter. And the government should probably get involved in those situations, in my
Oh,
opinion.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, just shoot everyone.
I said yeah to that. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, fuck it, dude. I don't
fucking-
even care.
So in those situations, things need to be toned down, because there's probably some constitutional rights being violated in those situations,
Oh, yeah.
I'd say. As soon as the Constitution's violated, fucking needs to...
That's
it's a
it.
cult,
Out.
in my opinion.
Right.
Yep.
But if something works for somebody... Stop making fun of my hand gesture.
Well, I'm sorry.
If something works for somebody, if something makes somebody happy, if something's good for a community, even if you think it's false, it's not your business to fuck up the balance.
Yeah.
It isn't.
For a personal experience for me, the main reason I didn't stray away from Catholicism, I was born with it, I was raised by it. But the main thing is I didn't get majority of my teachings. I didn't focus majority of my teachings from a school because, school felt like homework. I'm like, this is just theology homework. Most of my theology beliefs come from my family, my parents, because they are extremely religious. And the one lesson that my mom always stuck out to me is God wants you to be a good person. He wants you to do your own thing, and He's given you a choice. But He also wants you to be accepting of others and their choices. You can't sit there and just assume that you're right all the time. You have to have a free mind, like how God gave you a free will. You have to sit there and accept it.
See?
Oh,
All
fuck!
right, Stone.
Man, we were strong on
I
that.
know we
one.
did good.
We did really good on that one. This cool.
Stone, you that doesn't sound like traditional Catholicism to me.
It may not be, but
Sounds more westernized to me, man.
it may be a lot more westernized. But at the same time,
I mean, I say that because I can agree with it more.
I was gonna say,
I like it more.
but I'm not someone that goes always by the books.
Mhm.
I'm not something to go like, this is locked down facts.
Yeah.
This is the only path. To say that, in my honest opinion, is bullshit.
Mhm.
We have to be able to be open. If my mom was truly, fully religious, but was like extremely locked down, I can say this with a fact. I think she would have disowned my older brother who was gay.
Oh yeah, clearly she's open to some
She's
non-traditional
extremely
Catholic
open.
beliefs then, because your brother's gay.
I
Yeah.
said the main reason we're so open is because we've had so many good things happen to us.
Mhm.
We've had so many paths given to us, and we didn't immediately distrust it. We didn't lock it out or anything.
You have an open mind.
Exactly. That is the main thing of faith, is it is meant to be an open mind, and that's where the biggest difference between faith and science comes in. Science is locked down to facts and everything like that.
Here's the
And
truth, and that's it.
And
Yeah.
that's where some people are getting too far with religion, is they're trying to lock down facts and just keep it to something concrete. Faith as a belief is to be a lot more open. Something for you to connect to. Not
Right.
something that go like, this is the book, that is it. The people, a lot of the people on when they look at the Bible are going like, these are facts and these have everything about the book. For me, when I read the Bible, I'm like, these are messages. These are, in my way, tips. These are lessons, in a way.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so I had a roommate in college. We butted heads on a lot of things, especially theologically. I went to a religious college, which is ironic because by the time I signed to go there, I was more atheist than anything.
He said, "Yeah, I'm about to bounce."
Yeah, like, honestly, they offered the best deal closest to home because I got a woman to care about. She couldn't go to that college with me. So that's why I took it. But my roommate, I went to high school with him. I didn't know very much about his personal beliefs or anything from high school. I didn't know very much of anything. He kind of hated gays, man.
Oh.
And he wasn't even Catholic, but I come from a traditional Catholic household, and that's how I was raised initially. And we've always been okay with homosexuals. Always. My parents have always taught me that, like, scientifically speaking, you don't really get to determine who you're attracted to. So God made them that way, and why would we hate them
for the way that they were I agree with that. Yeah.
Why would we hate them for...
It's kind of fucked.
Yeah, it really is.
Somebody hates
Why
you for
would
that.
we hate them for fulfilling the purpose that they were created to fulfill, right?
You shouldn't shy away from what they're here for.
Exactly. And
they should love themselves.
agreed.
Yeah, and if really... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, actually, I don't agree with the love yourself thing.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I don't. When it comes to finding purpose in your life, I think your goal should be to become somebody you love.
Ooh.
You shouldn't just love yourself
not just
for who
accept
you are.
what you are.
Don't just accept what you are, in my
Don't be
opinion.
a couch potato.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I think there's a sect of Christianity back in the day, back in Nam.
Wait a minute.
Way before that.
Wait.
I
That's just a
remember
meme.
Father Jim and Nom.
Yeah. I think it wasn't the Franciscans. It was a different sect of like monks or something.
Okay.
And their whole sect was dedicated to like being jacked. Pretty much. Like they worked out regularly and they kind of worshipped through exercise and stuff. And they like, I don't think they were warrior monks, but boy, they could have been.
10 reps for the 10 Commandments. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It was really...
In the name of the Father and Son with every lift.
It was really interesting to me, though, because it's, I think the way they viewed it is God gave you a malleable physical entity that you can affect and change. And if it's not to its fullest potential, then you're fucking up. You're committing a sin.
I like that.
Basically. And I thought, it's like, if your parents give you a car, you better wash and wax that bitch. Take that shit to the wash.
I mean, one of the big things in Catholicism and Christianity is your body is a temple.
Yeah, and that's I believe this order is where
and
that
that's
came from.
where,
where
my tattoos kind of go against the whole your body is a
traditionals off.
I mean,
but it's your
piercings
temple.
too, honestly.
It's your hieroglyphics on your body. It's fine.
My hieroglyphic.
Yeah,
I like that.
You're
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. You're designing your own temple.
Yeah.
Good for you guys.
No, I'm not that way.
ShyGuy over there like,
I couldn't put ink on my body.
graffiti
It's
everywhere. Y'all hooligans.
You fucking hooligan.
Well, so as per usual, fairly libertarian about this. You do to your body whatever you want. That's none of my business.
Yeah.
Only as soon as it affects other people is it my business.
Yeah. Like
Right.
if you put some racist shit on your body.
Exactly.
You mean we're not allowed to have swastikas on our foreheads?
Well, again,
when we walk around?
freedom
I
of
mean, weekends.
Again,
Oh,
what the fuck? Again,
Not
with
on
freedom
Sundays.
of thought and freedom
Not on
of
Sundays.
speech, people, just like with religion, if you don't ever let people leave or disagree with you, they're going to defect. I hate to say this, but if people are never allowed to stumble and fall on stupid ideas like racism and racial superiority and stuff, they'll never get the chance to actually be proven wrong. They'll just resent people who don't let them express those stupid ideas for their whole lives. Everybody goes through stupid phases in their life.
That's why
And-
free will is important.
Yeah.
Because if you don't discover racism and realize how bad it is,
Yeah.
you won't ever know how bad it is.
Yeah, thankfully, most people don't have to be racist piece of shits to realize that.
Yeah.
Some do. And I remember there's this black guy, I don't remember what his name is or anything. They talk about him a lot on Joe Rogan, I think. He went and befriended multiple Ku Klux Klan members. And he would actually drive them to KKK rallies.
I think I heard that story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he's the most successful motherfucker in converting people to stop being racist and to stop being KKK members because they became friends with a black guy.
yeah.
And, I mean, for me personally, color of your skin doesn't fucking matter. I mean, there are some biological differences, but it's your character and mind that matter about
Absolutely.
anything. Exactly. Like, free-thinking society, man. Don't be so fucking two-dimensional. Goddamn.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's the whole point. If you don't let people discover these bad, stupid ideas, how are they supposed to learn?
Yeah.
You can't expect someone to learn without any mistakes.
Yeah, it's over-sheltering things. People are
Which
so...
is-
Failure is only
Which is our
failure if you
problem
fail to
nowadays.
learn from it.
Like, going back to religion, like, since everything's so locked down, everything feels like a chore, and it's just like, this is the only way, this is the only path. If you don't let these people explore their religion,
Even the bad ideas.
even the bad idea, especially the
That's
bad
why
idea, we have to know
Yes.
our mistakes.
That's-
we have to accept
Yep.
them.
That's why we have police officers. It's
Yes.
why we have society.
I thought we were
giving
getting
you
rid
shit
of police
for
officers.
That's a whole nother argument.
We're not allowed-
Hold on.
All right.
Hold on.
We ain't talking about that on the podcast. Getting fucking demonetized and shit.
Thanks, buddy.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right, we're not going to bleep that out because that was funny. But
That's good. That's good. That's good.
Who
I'll
am I
take
supposed to work with now, then, if they go? Come
that.
on.
Shit.
So my whole point is we have things in place to stop the Nazis from
Yes.
coming back. We've learned that mistake, especially in governing positions. So if a stupid fucking teenager that hates somebody for no good reason wants to do that, talk to him instead of beating it out of him. Mm-hmm. Right? Try to explain to them that you have the same hardships and you have the same problems and that we're equal. And that, I mean, that's important.
Which is the problem we have nowadays with our religion, with a lot of religions. They
everything.
can't
It's a problem with everything.
discuss with each other. They can't sit down
really
and have a
can't.
talk.
there's no conversation.
Like you said earlier, where this one guy who thought he was right, I couldn't imagine him trying to discuss with someone who was Islam.
It's the us or them mentality, dude.
It's just one of those things that people are thinking that they have to treat religion like it's like something government, and that's not how it is.
As if it
and
were
I think
100% objective.
And I think that's where people are losing the meaning of faith.
Well, it's anti-human nature. Not only should they let people stray away, but the more you say, don't read the black book, don't smoke the devil's lettuce, don't...
Oh, you gonna be smoking that devil now?
Yeah, exactly. Don't do this, don't do that. Even with racism and with drugs, the more we say, don't do it, this is your brain on drugs, the more people are going to want to do it. The more you say, don't join that religion, they're
Shy Guy,
wrong.
your
They hate
libertarian
us.
is showing.
Yeah,
Me
a
too.
little
I'm
bit.
100%
A little
the same
bit.
way. No, I mean that's
Don't
the
join
point.
this religion. It's
The
the bad
more-
one. Why wouldn't you go join that
The
religion?
more rules you
Why
have,
not?
Yeah.
the more rules that are put in your face, the worse you are.
The more you want to rebel against that.
Exactly. Like that's like when kids in private school.
Oh yeah,
Like the more rules you have, the more times you say,
Crazy
"No, you
fuckers.
can't do that. No, you can't do that." Oh my God, there's cocaine in your locker now. How did that happen? Probably because you kept telling me to do a bunch of shit, not to do it.
That's how you can
All
tell
you did
your
was make-
privilege is showing.
Yeah.
Showing
you
that
just
you can
made
have
them
cocaine,
curious.
right?
All
You
you
just- all you
did
just do
was
is
make people
curiosity.
Curious. Yeah.
And they're
Make
just like,
people
what's-
turn away
What's that
from what's
do?
truly good because you don't let them
Yeah.
experience their life.
Now, see, I'm not not going to be one of those parents that are like, "Hey, so I'm going to introduce this drug to you so you can try it with
Hey,
me
buddy.
and not your friends."
You want to try heroin today?
Exactly. Like, "Hey, Jimmy, what
we doing?
I know I'm your pa, but if you try some heroin with me and not your friends, you totally won't get addicted."
I know I'm your paw.
Yeah. So like, no, I'm not a proprietor of that. I'm not a proprietor of people doing that. I mean, there are some arguments to that, but if it's a physically addictive drug, don't fucking.
I mean, tell them it's bad, but be like, why the fuck would you do that? Like,
If
live your life, but why the fuck would you do
if
that?
they ask why not, just don't go like just because I said no. No, explain to
That's
them.
not it.
Let them
Give
know.
them an answer,
Well, you know,
explanation.
more-
They'll understand the why, and then they'll live their life the right way.
More atheistic
Boom.
people. A problem I see with them a lot is they normally just switch to worshiping something else. A lot of the time, whether it be worshiping the state, or it be worshiping psychedelics, or it's worshiping pot. Sometimes they worship pot. A lot of the time, honestly, it's if you think you have the cure for something, you'll worship it like it's God. And I see it all the time with radical.
DMT.
Yeah, with radical conservatives, they worship. Well, depending on which one, it goes two directions. Unlike the left, with radical conservatives, they worship old ideologies that have died, like Nazism and fascism, right? Mm-hmm. Or they worship a religion get a little cultish about it. Sometimes they mix the two together, right? And that's where they find purpose in society, by getting more niche and crazy and radical than mainstream religion. On the left, they worship the state. We have this problem. If the state just fixes it for us, everything will be great. If we just raise taxes, the state can accomplish anything. If we just raise the welfare systems, poverty will cease to exist. It's faith in other human beings that you can't trust. Just as the recent crazy issues with Catholic priests diddling kids. It's because they had blind faith in other human beings. I'm not saying there's no aspects of the faith that's good or anything, but if you believe that this man's a priest, therefore he's automatically a good person,
No.
that's blind faith, man. You can't do that.
Absolutely not.
He's human too. Yeah.
We're all human.
Yeah. And then with psychedelics, they just think that if they can see past the confines of their
Look
own
through that
eyes,
window or
they
the
can
door.
look through that window, they'll truly find meaning. Sorry, everything's subject to change. Even if you do find meaning, you'll only have it for a day or two. It's true.
Damn. Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
Anyone else have something?
Damn, that was
anyone else have something? I was gonna say,
before.
Brace
Wow.
looked like you wanted to say something, or
Bro,
No,
he just
I
kind of
kind of
fucking.
went like into Slumpville over here. I was like,
Wow.
dang.
Like, goddamn.
He over here fucking preaching.
Dropping bars.
We have like a 10-second silence. That was beauty right there.
Just a little bit.
Wow.
But like you said, that everything is subject to change. But it does come into those things that, like, of course they're going to change if that doesn't come to someone naturally. If I'm going to force Catholicism on you, you're going to turn so quick. You're going to do a full 360.
No.
Absolutely. I mean full 180.
Yeah, do a 360. You're going back in the same way.
Yeah, I got weirded out. I'm like, are you disagreeing with me? Like, I'm confused.
But that's like an issue I have with a lot of things now. Just I don't like doing everything by the books. That's why I'm happy how I got introduced into my faith. It wasn't through a school. It was through my family.
Yeah.
And we were a lot more open-minded about it.
Your family would talk and have the conversation with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's huge. That's a
Makes sense.
huge part of it. I'm trying to think of the right word. Being personable about the whole religion, the whole faith. Like,
It has to connect to you.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's...
Are you laughing?
It's nothing even related to this. But,
You look funny.
no, but Stone said something, doing it by the books or whatever. And every time I hear that phrase, I always think of, there's a song and it's called Cooking by the Books. And it's like the theme of Lazy Town. We'll listen to it after the podcast.
Oh, I know what you're talking
And
about.
it's
What the hell?
sorry.
What?
Sorry,
Ew.
that was a whole thing and it just made me smile.
Isn't that the one where they do
Yeah.
the Lil Jon remix?
All right! Yeah,
No,
that's the
none
one.
of that
Oh,
shit.
that hands that'll float.
Yeah.
Not on my
That's
good
the
Christian podcast. God damn it. All right.
That hand that'll float, bring that motherfucker up. Yeah. So,
And you'll get a lot of atheists and stuff who want to, like, eradicate religion.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I'm sorry, but the amount that religion actually, like, reforms people, criminals, drug addicts.
religion's done an amazing
It gives
thing.
them a new view on life.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously it does bad things too, but so does nihilism and thinking nothing matters.
Oh, yeah, because in that case, then you're like, well, if nothing matters,
That's-
I'm going to do what I want
Exactly.
then. And it's like, uh-oh.
That's a religion in itself. Doing the opposite. That's my boy Voltaire, who created libertarianism to a certain extent. Nihilism is dangerous. That's all I can say. Having no purpose is worse than having a bad purpose, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Because you're a man that has nothing to lose.
Yeah,
I mean, with nothing to lose, it's like, oh.
And I'd venture to say that you don't have to have a religion to have purpose, but if you're purposeless, religion's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and if anything,
I'm evidence you don't have to have a religious purpose.
Yeah.
I would suggest.
and you were saying earlier, like that's just fundamentally like how we, what we determine good and bad is also a lot for, just religious beliefs too. It's like this is, don't be a piece of shit.
I think at the end of the day, regardless if you believe in a religion or you have a faith or you're atheist, whatever it is, I think ultimately the goal is for you to find your path in life. If that means starting out with a religion, if that means
Straying away from your religion.
gaining an understanding of life is extremely important. I think the whole goal is to find the purpose within yourself and find the purpose of your life.
Thinking-
Self-discovery like I said earlier, is huge. I mean, we all started with Catholicism. That's what we started with. I mean, I don't think were you baptized?
No.
Brace, you weren't baptized. Okay. But like, we all were raised in kind of that environment of somewhat Catholicism, right? And whether we stayed with Catholicism or whether we drifted off into another direction, we found our path. And I think at the end of the day, regardless of what religion you believe in or how you choose to live your life, as long as it doesn't spread hate, they all lead to the same direction.
Well, it's if you find a way to achieve homeostasis, balance, that doesn't negatively affect other people, congratulations, you found a purpose.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yes, sir.
That's where we're at.
How long has it been?
I don't know. I think it's a good spot.
That might be a good spot.
That was a great.
It's a good spot.
Yeah.
All right.
See you, boys.